Welcome to the presentation of VLAN Slovenia and Otvorena mreža. My name is Luka Mustafa Musti. I'm a student of electronics and telecommunications. I'm into hardware hacking, wireless networks, laser networks and all of that stuff. And this is Valentin from Otvorena mreža.
Yeah, hello, I'm Valentin. I'm from Croatia. I work at an ISP and I'm also a hardware enthusiast and electronics enthusiasts and wireless networks, almost the same as Musti. So we'll show you what we have done together and how this network works.
All right, so first we have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. Why do we need internet? And why do we use internet as it is? This is an image of, well, the interconnections of the world's web and its wide proportions. But what does it make it so useful? So you all use it in some form, right? For communication, just getting information, doing business, buying stuff, all of that. You learn a lot from the internet. You have online courses, as you've seen in the previous presentations, so on. So it's a really immense place of information and pretty much everything you can think of and you might need. It's also good for entertainment and for invading your privacy. Well, you don't really have privacy online, as we've seen with NSA cases in the previous few weeks. So what we always tell people who ask dumb questions: use Google. Well, it's one of the most useful tools we have these days to get pretty much any information almost instantly. So you connect to the internet using your computer or smartphones. You have your local connections, your local small portions of internet in your home, in your village, in your city, in your country, and at the end this is one huge big blob which we call internet. But most of our devices today use wireless connections to get somewhere from the physical device to the internet, as we like to call it. So to get this basic connection, you need to have a commercial provider normally, which is an internet service provider, a company that has wired installations or some other wireless forms of communication to your home where you can use it and you pay some money for that. In regions which are not that well populated, this infrastructure generally doesn't exist. Thus, you can use satellite links and so on. But the whole point of this is you have to pay some or a lot of money to get to the internet. Sometimes you're lucky, you live in a city, you have internet cafes, you can use it in library, and then you have community networks, which is our topic today. They are primarily networks set up by people for people and making access to internet, so basic access, available for everyone for free to make this world a better place, really. So what should you do about it? You have to demand internet access. You have to demand internet infrastructure development from all the commercial entities, from the government, from everyone. You have to demand as well that they don't spy on you and spy on your usage of the internet. For example, if you live somewhere where you can't access the internet these days, well, you have to register internet interest with the ISP. You can ask your neighbor to share his connection, or you can just build your own internet access to the first point which has commercially available internet. And that's it, but you can't really say, oh, I don't have internet, I can't do anything. There's a lot you can do, and today we'll show you what we have done to make internet available for a huge population in Slovenia and Croatia. We will be talking about the community networks, about the idea of sharing what you have and sharing that with everyone so you all benefit at the same time.
So people joined in this project believe that internet is a basic human rights. It's one of basic human rights, and the internet should be available everywhere and all the time. But it's obviously not the case in many of the countries, also the countries we live in and others around the world. So to make this infrastructure available, we need to build it, or you have to build it yourselves. And you can also use the existing networks and existing broadband connections to make this happen. Because it is somewhere around 10% that most of the current broadband connections are used. So almost 90% is not used. So why not share the 90% that you don't use? So, okay, sorry. Yeah, we have obviously commercial internet providers, but they don't care if you live in some area that is rural, that is not really populated, that would make them cost benefit, that would make them a lot of money. So in those places, probably you're out of luck. We saw a nice example in New Zealand where Google planted balloons in the air, but that's not the case that you can build balloons in the sky for the whole world, maybe, but also wireless networks are really cheap and easy way to do it. So we proved that we can do it. So why not just join us and share the available connections where there are plenty of. So if you live in a city where there's really a larger, how do you say, we have
a lot of internet available, pretty much.
Bandwidth available, so you can share it without any issues with other people, and we can. That's really one easy way to bridge the digital divide.
So community networks pretty much generally enable people to share everything, to learn from another, to collaborate, and to contribute to the whole society as such, and at the end create a better world. And that brings us to the goal which we want to achieve with community networks, to empower individuals, meaning that every single person is able to access the internet without any limits, basically get all the information without paying huge sums of money. With the whole process of establishing networks, we want to encourage local cooperation to basically create local societies that take in their own hands the connectivity to the internet and bring it to the standard they, well, pretty much like to see. And at the end, having this whole mass of local communities that aim for better connectivity, we create a globally connected world, which basically is where the development goes these days. Just to have a picture of how the internet works from the perspective of different entities. So we can see ISPs here, like in the first circle from the internet. These are commercial entities that allow basic access to the internet. You pay them some sums of money, you get, I don't know, a broadband connection, 10 megabits or so. These are basically profit driven, and they connect between each other to form the internet as we know it today. On top of that, some users decide to create a community network, which is pretty much take their own connection and freely share it with someone else. So they pay for something and they share that with everyone. But bring those people together, we can create community mesh networks, as we can see here. So we can have like people build networks within ISPs or between them. And in all the catastrophic cases where governments, well, like to regulate the internet, let's say cut all the commercial part of the internet, well, you don't have any access. But if a part or proportion, an overlay of the internet is built on the community, it's open, it can be free, and primarily it's distributed. It's organic, it's uncontrolled, and that gives the power basically for the internet to persist in any situation. And you can see here that certain individuals, which are ham radio operators, who have a lot of knowledge about wireless connections, speaking over radio around the world to the moon and back, pretty much anything you can imagine. Combining that with Wi-Fi users, community networks, and so on, we can create our own internet, which is, as said previously, independent of commercial entities, which generally just provide higher capacity than we need in every day. But having a community network, what does that effectively mean? It means taking a small Wi-Fi router, as we have one here, built for a project Otvorena Mreža, place it on your window shelf, as you see here, well, and place it on the window that, you know, has some free space next to it, so it sees on the park or in the city or so on, and everyone will be able to connect. But don't do that just so you plug this in your home connection and you share what you have there. It's not secure. There are quite a lot of issues there. That's why we create projects like Valentin Slovenia, Otvorena Mreža, and a few others, where you have small, really low-cost Wi-Fi routers that enable you to have your closed home network as it is now, and just share a portion of the capacity for accessing the internet with others, not sharing your public IP and not having any issues with the governments as such in this case. It's always good to place this Wi-Fi router somewhere where, you know, they can nicely connect to others. And when you join a lot of people in this idea, let's say I decide to share my internet here, and Valentin decides to do the same there. We can individually share it, but if we contribute to the common idea, to the common project, then our nodes that share internet connectivity connect between them and basically form an overlay of the internet, a community-based wireless mesh network, which we all speak about, which is effectively a community-built overlay of the whole internet, connecting, as you see there, this router to the neighboring flats, to some others, and some others. You can improve the reach of them just putting them on the rooftops, mounting them somewhere safe, not killing yourself in the process.
Just be safe, yeah.
Yeah.
And also maybe even connect if your home is somewhere in a village that doesn't have electricity. You can use maybe a small power cell, a solar cell, or maybe a battery. So that's also an option.
Yeah. So as we've seen cases with Ushadi platform and projects like Serval, which are being developed for rural areas where there's truly no commercial interest, and it's key to empower people to simply build their own networks. And that's the sole reason why the project Valentin Slovenia and Otvorena Mreža started, which is to develop the technology, make it so stupidly simple, everyone can join a community mesh network, share what they have from the commercial providers, join networks, bridge the digital divide, pretty much do anything. And here's the story how it all happened. So Valentin Slovenia is an open wireless network of Slovenia. It's a community mesh network, meaning that it's built on people. There are no commercial business entities, no associations whatsoever. Every node is owned and operated by an individual in his own home, in his own local area. And this all began from an idea from Fundfeuer, which is a community network in Austria. They had a presentation in 2006 in Slovenia. A few years later, after quite some technical development, the platform NodeWatcher was ready, where you could easily just develop software for this Wi-Fi router, just push a few buttons and have a node ready. And within the first year, there were, 28 nodes in Ljubljana, which is the capital of Slovenia, and 13,000 users, which is quite a lot. In 2011, the project extended to Croatia with Valentin, and Otvorena Mreža was created. And today we stand at a point where Valentin Slovenia and Otvorena Mreža together have more than 250 nodes across the two countries, and almost 250,000 users. Well, let's say uses, which is the right term, meaning that many times the network was useful for someone. Someone accessed it to check the bus timetables. Someone used, I don't know, it to go to the library online or something like that. And on the other hand, we built quite a large wireless, independently operated infrastructure connecting Austria, Slovenia, and Croatia, independently of all commercial entities, governments, and everything that can be regulated. And this is truly done just by as many individuals as you see nodes on the map, really. The sole growth of the network kind of supports the claim that the idea works. the idea is good because there's a constant trend of the network growth throughout the process. Really, now it's about 250 nodes and constantly growing, so we might be at 300 by the end of the year. And again, this is done purely by people, so probably 50 or so people will join the network and share their connection by the end of this year, which is quite a lot just for a really community-driven network without special, propaganda, without special care for growth of the network. Why is it so useful, and why do people decide to share their connection? Well, the situation in Slovenia is such. There's quite a lot of broadband, like 60% of households have it. Okay? There's fiber to home in bigger cities, and the majority of the population really uses internet. However, there was a really fast growth of this broadband connectivity in urban areas, but in rural areas, pretty much nothing happened. And the problem is really we have a lot of the internet access, the shared broadband in cities. Like every house can have up to 50 megabits and no one really uses that. However, in rural areas, villages, there's pretty much nothing there. You can't really use mobile internet. So we can do several things. First is in public spaces, we can share the connections we pay for, so everyone that passes on the street, in the next flat, in a park, can access the internet whenever they need it without having special infrastructure, special arrangements with pretty much anyone. And we can kind of channel this broadband capacity to rural areas, to villages, and all of that. And here's just the practical case, what really happened in Slovenia. So the county of Halles is a really small county with some hills, vineyards, really nice place, actually. Created a web portal, web page for users, for basically local residents, but they had no access to the internet, so, well, there's no point in having that, right? So residents, with the help of Project Vela in Slovenia, decided to build their own network, which at the moment looks like this. What we see in these images, the green link going to top left is a 40-kilometer wireless link going to a city of Maribor, where it's connected to fiber connection, and basically it provides the internet for the whole community in these hilly areas. This is a few kilometers wide area, really. And there's a second one up right, which goes to another fiber connection, for example. We have really nice slideshows how this network has grown in the past 2 years, really. But what happened here, there was a single node 2 years ago. And then the first neighbor decided, okay, I won't just use the internet my neighbor shares for me. I will place a node that will connect to his node and share the internet further. And then suddenly the third neighbor has seen like, oh, suddenly there's some internet. Okay, he used it for a month or so. All right, I won't just use it. I might do something for others so they can use it as well. And so on, suddenly there are 100-something nodes here built by people for people because there was no commercial interest. Same thing happened in Croatia, really.
In Croatia, we started with just one node in Osijek, and started giving talks in Zagreb, in Rijeka, in Split, and also outside of Croatia, in Macedonia and Belgrade. And we just talked with people, and we have around 15 to 20 nodes. It's really an early start in Croatia. So we have 2 nodes in Rijeka, and we also have one in the bag, which will be the 3rd node in Rijeka from today. And in Osijek, it's like a center currently of the project, but it's not localized in any way, shape, or form. Anybody in any city, in any place, could just join the project and start sharing their networks.
Right. So the whole thing, the goal is really, as said previously, to enable people, firstly, to take technology that's available at low cost and to use it to build their own networks. So that's why we need to develop a system. Well, we actually have developed a system that's simple, time-saving, and open source, and that allows you to join a community mesh network with almost 3 clicks. As simple as that. At the same time, we promote the practice so others can hear about this great idea and then share this best practice around the world. That's why you're free to kind of browse the net, look at our websites, Velen Slovenia and Otvorena Mreža, which will give you a lot more detail how to basically create a community network in your own local area and help you find a network that might be already existing there. The network is one thing, but having a mesh network, which means it's an organically grown, well, almost entity really, because you really can't limit the network to wireless technology, to wired technology. I mean, pretty much it can be someone pushing around flash drives with data, anything really. But creating a wireless mesh network on top of the world will allow everyone to basically jump over the digital divide and start using basically the digital world, democracy, knowledge, all we can think of almost instantly. How the whole community network works from our perspective is people put nodes at homes, on top of flats of buildings, in parks, wherever. All of these nodes connect to some VPN servers and all of that, and then they go to the internet. Why? The first question is security. Right? You don't want to have trouble with basically your government because some third person used their internet to do whatever. That's why we found a way how to basically put a pipe to your local connection and allow you just to share the pure bandwidth, not the connectivity to the internet. That's handled by the community, by the rest of the network, by all servers, which you don't really have to think a lot about. But what's more important here is someone that decides to share a connection, like you see on the node there, the same technical thing, the same Wi-Fi router connects to the next one, which does the same thing, and creates a network. So we kind of jump over the fact, here's an access point, you can use it. But we go to the idea, here's something you can use. If you use it, spread it around. Just build your own network. Simple as that. And when you build your own network, you can have your own content, you can have your own services, you have users that collaborate. So the idea is we don't just sit at home and connect to the internet, which is somewhere floating around and we don't know really where it is. But we also find a way how to effectively collaborate in a local environment with our neighbors, with our basic local community, and just have the growth and all the thoughts and basically local things collected there. Maybe the best way how to, boost, let's say, economic development or technical development, is having local support, creating connections between local people through creating networks, through building networks, so they manage to basically prosper in the digital world. And the whole thing looks like this in reality. This is the case in Slovenia. Some nodes are operating, some are not, green and red. It's an organic network. It's built by people. Some people turn off their Wi-Fi routers when they need it for something else. They decide not to participate. Some others decide to participate. And that's the whole beauty of it, really, because you can see some huge green blobs being created in the country. And they basically are on the space where people need the internet. The thing simply grows where it's needed and dies off where it's not that popular, really. From a smaller perspective, in the city, you can see, okay, every node exists on a space. They either connect between each other through VPN connections, as said previously. They're still in the same network, although they don't have wireless connectivity between them. But some of them, connect across the city, which is like 3 kilometers across easily. And that effectively means that there's an instant connection between individuals in a city without the whole internet in a cloud, really, far, far away, which we don't really know how to access and how it works. On top of that, there's a lot being done really. As we can see here, a Wi-Fi router is not just something you can access the internet with. You can use it, you can extend it to have sensors, you can measure the temperature, for example.
You can really make a really cheap and but powerful sensor for measuring temperature or other.
Yeah, we have lightning detectors, pretty much what you can think of, and it's really easy, you know, to just build your own smart network that does more than just provide internet access. More on that and all community networking behind the stage there at the end of the room. You can have questions later on. We'll be there if you want to know more. That's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much. Here are some photos connecting to Austria, creating an autonomous network, free and completely unlimited. And as said again, this is what happens nowadays. If you can't access internet, they tell you go online and do it and request access to the internet. Well, you can't do that if you have no way how to do it. Simple as that. And this is what happens when you do community networking right. This is Athens in Greece, and this is what people built. The whole thing is full of community network nodes. It's built by people, for people, and it's one of the best practices in this world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In 3 minutes, we are continuing on a topic: how do we use these networks to transfer the data, and what are the policies in that sector?